So now those storms have died away, our second stout is on the way. And this one comes from the tomb with Newcastle's Alpha Delta. And brewed in collaboration with Sweden's best kept secret, Nerd Brewing. Alpha Delta started life back in 2019 by father and son team Steve and Ross Holland. And it was actually spun off their previous brewery, Box Social, which they started back in 2015. But whereas Box Social were a little more on the traditional side, AD were where they were making their big New World style beers. Most notably those big hazy New Englanders. Whereas their Swedish counterparts are far more famous for their big Impy Stouts. Nerd were formed back in 2015 by home then gypsy brewer Hans Gruber. No, not that Hans Gruber, a former software developer, hence the name Nerd. But it isn't just their name that harkens back to the software world, but their attitude towards open sourcing, claiming all their recipes are free to access for all you budding home brewers out there. And one quick look through their website, you can see they sure weren't lying about it. And as I said before, you'll sure notice a hell of a lot of Impy Stouts on there, which should bode very well for today. As of course we have ourselves another chilly chocolate Impy Stout on our hands, those fire extinguishers at the ready, as we're locking on to Echo. And as Alpha Delta proclaim themselves, a collab with Nerd Brewing had to be a big Impy Stout. They really did emphasize that, but that emphasis does fill me with joy. And don't worry, we haven't disappointed you here. It's literally a hot chocolate stout, smooth, full-bodied with a hit of chili. It's our biggest mash yet. It was 2 tons of grain in a double mash. Our arms are still sore after that. And we know just how much I like me a big weighty body. 2 tons sounds the perfect weight. This ought to be right on target, so let's take to the skies and let's get pouring. So it is very chocolatey on the nose. It's almost a milk chocolate you're getting. There's a very noticeable warming. And there is almost a cakiness to it. And you are just getting a little hint of that spice too. It seems almost cinnamon-like, but it could just be the chilies. And it is very chocolatey right up top, a little bit on the sweet side, but it is quickly brushed aside as those spices and those chili notes really start to warm things up. And there is an almost spongy cakiness to it in the middle too, before it fades out with quite a boozy tail. There's a lot of coffee and licorice in that tail too, and there's almost a rich fudge stickiness right in the middle. And you are just getting a feel for this sweet, rummy raisin note too. It's an 11.7% Impy, and it sure does let you know about it. And although it is pretty heavy on the carbonation side, it takes absolutely nothing away from that 2 ton of grain, as it is pillowy and sticky and real thick in the mouth, with a real oily slickness to boot. And those chili notes combined with that weight of booze really do add a lovely warming which coats you all the way down. But it definitely has something of the Caribbean chocolate cake about it. And I can already feel it packing its punch. It is a real feast in itself. It's almost exactly what you want in a big Impy, as you could happily sit in your favourite armchair whisking away a whole evening on this bad boy alone. And now we're down into the beer some of those rich chocolate notes are really starting to pull their way back into the picture, and it's dragging those milky notes with it too. And it has developed a sweet, fudgy toffee note in the middle, almost Werther Original-esque. There are some beers you get that you drink, you enjoy, and you're on to the next. This, on the other hand, is a full-on experience in of itself. It's got near everything you'd want in a big impy stout. Yes, the flavours are big, bold and full on, and that body, it's dessert-like, it's spongy and sticky. Sipping this down, you feel the woes of the world slowly slipping out of your reach, and your happy place cushioning your landing. It's almost akin to kicking back with a joint than it is to sipping a beer. And now we're down into the tail of the beer. It has remained just impeccable. I am struggling to bring myself to finish it, purely as I don't want this to end. The question often gets asked, if you could only have one beer for the rest of your life, what would it be? Well, if I had a weekend with nothing planned, I can tell you for now, this would be it. So, if I'm being honest, I didn't really leave me much to summarise after that. It was just an all-round beautiful piece of work. And if I'm honest, I did actually have a couple more stouts lined up for the following week's reviews, but I don't even think I can bring myself to after something that fantastic. It just wouldn't be fair. It just ticked every box. And yes, I have a little favouritism when it comes to chili chocolate, but this was much, much more than just the sum of its mere parts. And without sounding like the world's most pretentious it truly was some experience. You could liken it to heavenly almost, if, you believed in that sort of thing. And to be fair, after a few more of those, I could probably start. But I do now have my own crusade ahead of me to track down more nerd brews. Because if the rest are anything like that, then my good people, we can give up the search, because the Holy Grail will have been found.